So, someone asked me what the Civil War was about. Now, you got to understand, I'm not a scholar, okay? I'm just a guy that likes to read. But what was the Civil War about in this country? Basically, man, after the war with Mexico, the United States came into the possession of a shitload of territory. California, New Mexico, Arizona, all that shit, okay? And right away, the uh, the question was, okay, we got all this new land. Are these states going to be free states or are they going to be slave states? Now you got to know, man, that slavery was already a divisive issue when the Constitution was signed in 1787. It was fucked up, the slavery question. So like you know, it's like, okay, I don't know what's it going to be, right? So then they tried this experiment in Kansas where they're like, okay, well, why don't you guys just decide whether you want slavery or not? And they were killing each other over that shit. Well, I think the Mexican War was over in 1848, the signing of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. They lost all that territory. So it just, from that point on, all through the 1850s, it was just heating up, heating up, heating up. Kansas was a fucking nightmare. People were getting slaughtered in Missouri over this slavery deal. And then the big moment came in 1860 with the election of Abraham Lincoln. And when Lincoln got elected, and that was like, that's a whole story in and of itself. I mean, he was like not even, he was not a shoe-in at all. He was like the third choice. There was so many other more popular people running, Seward and all those guys. When Lincoln gets elected, the southern states go fucking ballistic. And the first one to leave was South Carolina. And they all just started leaving, man. All of them. Fucking Texas, Mississippi, Georgia, Florida, everybody, Virginia, everybody was leaving the United States, and they created their own country, the Confederate States of America. They took the Constitution, put in the word slavery, and so when people say that the South wasn't fighting for slavery, yes, they were. They were explicit about it. If you read the speeches of Alexander Stephens, who was the guy that ran the whole fucking thing? Jefferson Davis. Like they're very open about it. Their whole society was built on slave labor. That's what it was all about. That's what they were fighting to preserve. They were scared. There was something about Lincoln getting elected that they just went nuts. So, I guess it was 1861 when Bull Run started. I mean, they thought it was going to be one just quick battle and that would be it. And of course, it was 4 years of grinding, bloody. It was incredible, man. Like, uh, it's got to be the worst crisis this country's ever had. Worse than the Great Depression. Worse than World War II. You know what I mean? It was bad. So that's what it was. That's what it was about, man. And you know, in I think it was 1860. Was it 1862? Or was it 1863? I can't remember. I think it was September of 1862. It was 62 or 63. Anyway, after Antietam, that's when Lincoln was like, okay, we're setting the slaves free. And then instead of just preserving the Union, the war aim became freeing the slaves. I mean, they had to do it. I mean, it was just terrible. You could imagine what this country must have been like in those days before there was a Waffle House or a Walmart. Just uh, you probably wouldn't even recognize the place. Anyway, it was not it was not a foregone conclusion that the North was going to win. I mean, the first generals were, they weren't that good. I mean, McClellan was, he was a show general. He wasn't a good fighter. Ambrose Burnside was bullshit. Hooker was a loudmouth. Um, Rosecrans did pretty good at Stones River, and he got Bragg out of Chattanooga, but then he got his ass kicked at Chickamauga, and he just never recovered from it. Grant was the one that was winning all the victories out west, and then he comes east, and I mean, just without him, I don't know how they would have won. Maybe they wouldn't have. It was it's a very dramatic story. Many people have talked about it. There are many books. There's probably more books on the Civil War than anything else in America. But it's a fascinating story, and some of those issues are still playing out today. And that's basically what it was about, man. And I would highly recommend the Bruce Catton books. Listen to Gary Gallagher. Uh, the Ken Burns thing's great. But yeah, I just thought I'd talk about that for a minute.